The Carleton College Convocation program is a weekly lecture series that brings fresh insights and perspectives from experts in a variety of fields. The program has a rich history dating back several decades. The selected Convocation speakers assist the liberal arts mission of centering thoughtful conversations within education and beyond.
Good morning. My name is Caroline Cooper. I am a senior history major here at Carleton College, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Peter Gwinn, class of 93's convocation talk titled How to Be a Comedian When Nothing is Funny. Peter and I go way back, and by that I mean we broke bread at 5 p.m. sharp at LDC last night. Peter and I actually share a couple of commonalities. We both attended Carleton College. We have both been members of Kajokra, which is Carleton's improv comedy group, which I currently co-captain, and we are both known for our devilish good looks. If you didn't laugh, that means you agree, so thank you. But I digress. Peter is a fantastic Emmy and Peabody Award-winning comedian and teacher. He has written for the Colbert Report, Alpha House, and appeared in Netflix Easy. He is also an accomplished improviser who has taught at a variety of theaters, including the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York and the IO Theater in Chicago. If you aren't tuned into the comedy world and it sounds like I'm making up these names, just know that this guy has a Wikipedia page. In addition to his teaching, Peter founded the musical improv group Baby Wants Candy, which has been performing for over 20 years and selling out runs at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It was also named a New York Times Critics Pick. Kajokra almost got that, but, politics. Anyway, Peter's resume goes on miles, but beyond being a brilliant comedian, he is also a wonderful person. Please join me in welcoming Peter Gwinn, class of 93, back to Carleton College.
Thank you, Caroline. Not only, not to brag, but to brag. Not only do I have a Wikipedia page, I don't know who made it. Thank you. This is so exciting to be here. I believe this will be the 4th convocation I ever attended. So I'm really happy that you guys came out today. I was bad at that. So yes, hello. My name is Peter Gwinn, class of 93. As you've just heard, I was one of the original writers for a show on Comedy Central called The Colbert Report. And now, yeah, you can clap for that. It's a good show. Now I write for a show on NPR called Wait, Don't Tell Me. So even if you guys are not familiar with those shows, your parents are going to be psyched that you were here today. Before I start, the college would like me to continue to impress you. So yeah, at the Colbert Report, I won 2 Emmys. That's me in the lower corner with the biggest mouth. And while at that show, I got to do a lot of cool things. I not only got to hang out with Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, but also both Cookie Monster and Kermit the Frog. Yeah. Other things. What else? Get to know me. I also have 2 Peabody Awards, 3 Writers Guild Awards. I married a doctor, which I consider an accomplishment. Also a Carleton grad, so get ready for that, half of you. I live in Chicago, and I also really like this whale that I found in a Canva template. His tummy's an old newspaper. So I think we're all sufficiently impressed with me now, so we can get started. Just in case you're not familiar with these shows, before The Late Show, Stephen Colbert hosted The Colbert Report, where he played a fake right-wing commentator named Stephen Colbert. And we mainly satirized the mainly right-wing news's tendency to emphasize fear and anger over facts and analysis. On the first show, one of The thing Stephen said was, anyone can read the news to you. I promise to feel the news at you. And we also liked to, we made fun of your right-wing media's over-the-top performative patriotism, and I want to show you our opening credits so you get the idea. But I have to do it this way, which is weird.
This is the Colbert Report.
So you get the idea. The Colbert Report was a notable show for a couple of reasons. If I gotta bring this back here first. Sorry, there we go. We invented the word truthiness, which caught on. This word put a name to something that people were feeling a lot in 2005, but no one could really express. And it is the feeling when there's something that somebody wants to be true or sort of feels like it should be true, so they decide it is true regardless of any, like, quote unquote facts that might suggest otherwise. Here's a good example. Sorry. I found 3 full copies of my itinerary in the middle, between page 1 and 2 of my script. It was great. So if you look at things like science and research and that sort of stuff, vaccines are safe and effective. However, vaccines are shots, and shots are scary, and sometimes scary things can be dangerous. Therefore, vaccines cause autism. That's just the transitive property. And you can tell me any facts you want, I know that that is truthy. So that is truthiness. Of course, the main reason the Colbert Report is such an important program in history is it had the first national TV appearance of Schiller. It was a great moment. The custodians of Schiller contacted me to see if we could get him on the show, and I had to go down to Stephen's office and say, okay, my college has this thing. And I didn't say much more than that before he was like, yeah, I'll do it. We'll make it happen. So that was exciting. My current show, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, is described as NPR's news quiz. Just like Colbert, it's jokes about the news. But instead of every night, this is a weekend show. And it's also a podcast, so you guys can listen, which would be great. Get your dorm mates to listen. We need to lower our median listener age. And this show is, we present the news as trivia questions, and then there's a panel of comedians there with us that sort of riff on the stories. So it's fun because it's a Q&A, so it's kind of like jokes you can play along with. It's a good time. And while a late night show like The Late Show or Colbert kind of sometimes feels like I am reporting the news to you for the day, this show is more, we're hanging out on the weekend, talking about all the insane stuff that just happened in the week. I'm so sorry. Convocation is expensive, it's maize and blue days, we're raising money, so I had to take on a couple of sponsors to cover my travel and everything, so this will just take a second. Peter Gwynn's Convocation is brought to you by the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, offering delicious restaurants and amazing cultural destinations just an hour's drive north from campus. We've got it all in Minneapolis, St. Paul, close enough to visit, far enough that you don't want to. And it's also brought to you by The Cave. Located in the basement of Evans Hall, next year is The Cave's 100th anniversary. Join them as they celebrate this occasion with, according to Carleton's official events calendar, 0 events planned for the next full year. So come on and swing on by The Cave. Maybe it's unlocked. Right. So between these two shows, and this fact amazes me as much as you, I've been getting paid to write jokes about the news for 20 years. And now is a particularly weird time to have this job because the news is not funny. The war in the Middle East, that's not funny. The events up in Minneapolis when ICE came to visit you guys, not funny. The Epstein files, they're tricky because everything that happened with that guy is not funny. The fact that Trump is all over them and he can't make people stop talking about them no matter what he does, it's a little funny. But overall, we are living in a pretty dire moment. It's not a new thing that the media, especially right-wing media, has been pummeling their audience for so long with messages to be angry and afraid. But now the environment has evolved. Everyone still wants their bases to be scared, but now the left and right both want their bases to be outraged, which is the opposite of humor. And this outrage has further metastasized to the point where the bases on the left and the right want people on the other side to suffer. If your side gets everything it wants, it's not a victory unless the other side feels bad about not getting what they want. The word compromise used to be considered a victory. Now it's considered a defeat. And this is a fairly toxic environment to be a comedian in. This job used to be so much easier when the world was goofier. Even back during the Trump's first administration, he'd tweet Kafifi and we'd have a field day. It was such great times. But while we were making fun back then of stupid or crazy things that he did, it did not occur to us that his response would be to have stupid and crazy be his first move right out of the gate. He took away hyperbole because hyperbole is his opening gambit. And again, this makes things kind of tough for us. There's a saying in the news biz that dog bites man, that's not a headline, it happens every day. Man bites dog, that's a headline. And we've gotten to a point where this crazy stuff is dog bites man, it's just normal. There's nothing to make fun of because it's not surprising. This week, the president dropped an F-bomb at Iran in a tweet. And there's nothing to write jokes about there. It's awkward. It's not really funny. The best I can do is point out that resorting to curse words is historically the best way to announce you're losing an argument. But even that doesn't feel real fun. And this is the small problem. The real issue is this administration is reveling in cruelty. The recent ICE operation you guys had in the Twin Cities is a great example. The point of those operations isn't to round up illegal immigrants, it is to demonstrate cruelty. In Chicago, they arrested a daycare teacher without a warrant in front of her students. They pulled her right off the street during drop-off. So it has become, let's do the worst thing possible. Let's not present cases to a judge. Let's shoot tear gas and beanbags into the faces of peaceful protesters. Let's kill peaceful protesters. And then we'll call them a terrorist on TV, and then we will make fun of them online for being dead. This cruelty can get to you. Thinking about these things isn't fun. When we try to talk about these stories on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, our audience just gets mad at us. They get real quiet, like you guys. It is harder than ever to find news stories to talk about that don't depress people. These take up a lot of air, and there is only so many times a guy in Florida is going to rob a convenience store with an alligator. Twice, by the way. Technically, one was a Wendy's. But it raises a question, in this environment where nothing feels good and the circumstances feel so dire, is there even a place for comedy? Should we be making jokes when there are big, important things that deserve our attention? I mean, my answer is yes. but there are times you feel like you have to justify it. By the way, the back half of this talk is a lot more fun. I'll switch it up, don't worry about it. But first I want to commit a cardinal sin of comedy and talk about why it's important. Small I, important, by the way. But I used to have this sort of nagging feeling in the back of my head that my job was frivolous, that we're just fiddling while Rome burns, and we are distracting from the things that people should actually be focusing on. And then when I was in my upper 20s, I had a truly life-changing conversation. And like so many life-changing moments throughout history, it happened when I was buying an air conditioner from a nun. This particular nun was my downstairs neighbor in my apartment building. She was moving out, didn't need her air conditioner anymore, and we did. So I went down there and we were chatting. And she asked me what I did for a living. And at this point in time, I was teaching some improv classes. I was doing some touring shows with the Second City. And I was doing those things for money, but it would be a stretch to say I was doing them for a living. So I was kind of embarrassed to tell this nun who works for Jesus that I'm a comedian. And to my utter shock, she said, "Oh, I love comedy. Comedians are so important. They're healers." And I thought, holy shit. And then I thought, sorry, God. But it hadn't occurred to me that there was merit beyond simple entertainment in this job. And you know what? The nun was right. And from that moment, I got to go forward thinking not only is my career valid, but I'm on a mission from God. And I have been thinking about this. And to be clear again, a farmer has a more important job than me 365 days a year. That said, Aristophanes was writing comedic plays in Greece in 420 BC. And over 2,400 years later, this is still a job. So it must be contributing something. And I think it does. When serious stuff is happening, we need comedy. When things are tough out there for people, the world is full of pain, the world needs healers. Comedy provides laughter and catharsis, both of which are good for your mental health, partially because you can't scream at someone real mad while you're laughing at the same time. Sometimes because just letting emotion out of you is really, really helpful. It can provide perspective. Satire will show you a scary situation or an upsetting news story from a different angle that will let you approach it from a different angle. You get to understand it better, which gives you power when you engage with that story. Even at its most basic fart joke level, comedy is restorative. We live in a culture of doom scrolling and catastrophizing to the point that our fight or flight response is constantly active. And even just watching a stupid TikTok gives that part of your brain a break. It gives your amygdala a chance to reset so you can re-engage with the world in a place where you get to decide what's a crisis. And comedy provides community, which I also think is really important. When you laugh at a joke, you're responding to something that we have in common. And in a world where we are increasingly compartmentalized by all of our different algorithms, that is important. This also came up for some friends and I. We started a theater company in Chicago this year, and we needed a name for the company, and we were like, well, what's the best thing we can offer to the public right now? And thinking about that, we named it the Respite Theater Company. Because what do people need right now? They need joy and shelter from the storm. We're very excited about this. We're gearing up for our first production, which is going to be an original musical. We would be underway already, but this is true. I had to write this speech. So we're very excited about that. And if there's any Rich alumni watching this on Zoom, we'd love to see your tax-deductible contribution at respatheater.com. So the ultimate value of comedy really hit home to me a couple of years after that conversation with the nun. Now, for the students here, I know this is going to be a little before your time, but have you guys heard of a thing called 9/11? Cool. Wow, what a traumatizing thing that happened. Everybody sat around for weeks in stunned silence, just watching the same footage over and over again. There was no one to hit back, was the worst thing. So we were all stewing in rage and grief and impotence. My generation, Gen X, had a reputation of being real ironic and kind of hip, and there were actual conversations on TV about, is irony dead? This was so serious. Can anything ever not be serious again? And this pall laid over the country, but especially the comedy community. We didn't know if comedy was coming back. And this was lying over all of us for 16 days. I'm going to show you what I truly believe is the most important historical artifact in my possession. On September 27th, 2 weeks after 9/11, this issue of The Onion came out. This newspaper gave a voice to everything people were feeling but hadn't had an opportunity to put into words and express, starting with the name of the coverage itself, holy fucking shit, Attack on America. We needed that moment of catharsis so bad, because yes, oh my God. The frustration that we had is right there in that headline, US vows to defeat whoever it is we're at war with. And on an individual level, they covered that too with this one, not knowing what else to do, woman bakes American flag cake. If you are wondering, oh, I'm sorry, I also want to mention the bottom one, hijackers surprised to find themselves in hell. That one felt really good. If you are wondering what it was really like in those couple of weeks, it's this stat shot down in the corner. How have we spent the last 2 weeks? Crying, staring at our hands, feeling guilty about writing a video, calling a loved one, thinking about donating blood, and watching TV for 9 hours, finally getting up, going to the corner store for cheese doodles, eating cheese doodles, realizing cheese doodles aren't helping, throwing cheese doodles away. That was 100% accurate. And we're making jokes about it. This newspaper is made of pure, solid empathy. It embraced everything that we were feeling at a moment that we felt lost and alone. It let us laugh at things we had in common. We got to exhale after this. And this issue of The Onion gave every comedian in America permission to take our sense of humor back. And it let us work toward the new normal. After this, I do need to mention that when I lived in New York a few years later, I got to know the Onion guys who wrote this issue, and by 2006, they were really tired of people thanking them for saving comedy. So they were ready to move on, but I still wanted to mention it. They deserve it. This is the most important thing we can do as comedians in 2026. The best comedy is based in empathy. To be a good comedian, you have to understand other people's points of view and relate to them. And in this climate in 2026, being a champion for empathy is an act of rebellion. Especially the political right has been pushing in all of their chips on demonizing empathy. What's the word woke? It means considerate. That is a word for someone who chooses to keep in mind that different people have different life experiences, and sometimes that comes up. That's all that meant. The right has literally declared war on the concept of being considerate, which is, to use the official political science term, bonkers. So, in the face of an oppressive government trying to demoralize the opposition through fear and anger and cruelty, comedy and satire that provides perspective and a fresh, objective way of looking at things, these things become weapons. I'm so full of myself right now. And I gotta say, I feel pretty good. But I am puffing myself up, yeah. But also, there's a reason that Brendan Carr, Trump's FCC chair, tried to get Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air and leverage the power of CBS to cancel Colbert's Late Show. It's because Kimmel and Colbert are two of the most empathetic comedians out there, and perhaps worse, they refuse to feel sorry for themselves, which makes them dangerous. So the administration, it's not a coincidence that they chose these two effective satirical voices mocking them to be the ones that they would target. That is not a coincidence. If there is a coincidence at all here, it's probably something like in 1939, Joseph Goebbels, the Brendan Carr of Nazi Germany, ended the careers of the 5 most prominent satirical comedians in Germany. Now, am I suggesting that the Trump administration is following the Nazi playbook? Certainly not. I would not say that. But there are some parallels there. And I actually have a much more important thing to talk about right here, which is that I read this article and I found that these satirists were targeted because they deftly caricatured National Socialist leaders, sometimes with bon mots that made the rounds of the country. And I now clearly have a new life goal. I am dedicating all of my energy to writing a bon mot that makes the rounds of the country. This is my holy grail. Sorry, I have another sponsor break. Sorry, these things are expensive, you guys. Carleton.edu/donate. This talk is brought to you by Friday Flowers. Put a brightly colored surprise in someone's mailbox. Friday flowers are a great way to say congratulations or have a great weekend. And they're an even better way to make the object of your affection say, wait, why is my platonic friend giving me flowers? What's going on here? So head to sales today and make it weird with Friday Flowers. And it's also brought to you by the brand new app, Hodsify Me. It's a new app that makes your friends and family look just like the sculpture outside the library by renowned sculptor Dmitri Hodzi. Boy, it's just hours of fun giving your photos the look of 6 different types of stone and epoxy. Take one look and your friends might say, well, I'm standing outside the library permanently. Hodsify Me, available in app stores now. Okay. I did feel, it's a convo, so I felt the need to be heavy for part of it. But I was getting other sorts of questions. There are other things that people want to know, especially people about how you get here from, how you get to this job from this place. And I fielded a question from it, from someone. There we go. Hey, Peter, I really dig what you're saying. Get it because I'm planting a tree. Yeah, I get it. But the students mainly want to know how you went from Carleton to a TV job. Can you tell that story? Yeah, is that something we're interested in? Cool, sure thing, President Byerly. Let's make that happen. So my story. When I got here, I honestly wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But I quickly found out that my gig here, my passion here was theater. There was no theater major at the time, but there was plenty of theater opportunity. My junior and senior year, I was the chair of the Experimental Theater Board, and we had plays in Norse Theater from week 3 to week 10, all 3 trimesters. It was really fun, and there were also players' shows and a spring musical. So when I was here, I did arguably too much theater. I was in 15 plays, I directed 8, and I crewed a whole bunch more. If you're not familiar with Colbert or Wait, and you thought my name sounded familiar, you've probably just been reading the walls in the Norse Theater. It's embarrassing how I'm all over the place back there. And I'm sorry, speaking of theater, I want to take a moment here to just do a couple of shout outs. And first I want to shout out Unco, the uninvited company. Oh, there's Unco people in the house. This was a summer stock company that stayed on campus over the summer and did a season of shows for basically the people in Northfield. And it was open not just to us, but we were sometimes joined by St. Olaf students or even Northfield residents. And I can't express what a fantastic learning experience this was. You got to spend the summer on campus, June and July. We did 4 plays in 9 weeks, which is a lot. So each play ran for 2 weekends, and during that second week, you are rehearsing the show that opens the following week. Tough schedule. You all get to live together. We all lived in Huntington House. You worked a day job. People, usually on campus, people would be on paint crew. I was an electrician's assistant one summer. And then you'd all get together for dinner, and then you'd go rehearse in the theater at night. And all of this fun stuff, it's so intense, it's so fun. It also makes it a really great way to get in fights with people that you usually like. And it was such a great learning experience, mainly because we were in charge. Like, this was in the Arena Theater back in the day. You guys now know it as that field. But the professor who was in charge of the plays in stagecraft literally handed us the keys and went to a lake somewhere. So the decision-making was ours, the problem-solving was ours. We had to learn a lot of things, sometimes up to and including places on stage to hide your lines that you have not yet memorized. And I bring this up because these guys, it's such a great thing. They faded out around 2008. And I heard about that and contacted the school to see if there was student interest. There was, and really speaks to what a rewarding experience this is. Once people were interested in it, I reached out to Unco alumni from the 70s to the 2000s, and we raised enough money to cover their whole budget in 2 days. And that is a story about how Unco came back for the summer of 2019. It didn't come back in 2020. I don't remember why. But it's really fun. Hint, hint. And sorry, one more shout out to my advisor, Ed Sostek, who passed away just a few months ago. Such a great English professor, theater professor, acting teacher, and such a great guy to work with. There's me and my wife and Ed from a few years back. He spoke at our wedding. And I would just like, now that I'm here on campus, to just have everyone give a round of applause for Ed Sostek, please. Thank you, Ed. By the way, whoever from the college is listening today, when you look for a photo of Ed on the Carleton website, you can find that one at his desk, but when you look, the first photo you find is this one. Now, I don't know if Ed got arrested at some point, or just no one told him it was like ID picture day, which is likely, but we don't need that photo anymore. You can take that one down probably. So, yes, I did a lot of theater, but freshman year, my roommate was on the football team. In classic Carleton fashion, he was a defensive lineman and also the punter. So we went to go see a game, and where the other team had cheerleaders, we had a bunch of idiots dressed kind of like Vikings. And what got me was every time these cheerleaders would start to do a big choreographed routine, the Vikings would start to sword fight with each other and sword fight right in front of the cheerleaders so that you couldn't see them and they were stealing all the focus. And I asked my RA, who are those people? And she said, oh, that's the comedy group here, Kujokra. And I said, well, I want to do that. And I auditioned and got in. These are our actual posters that I found in my attic. You will see we mostly performed back then in the concert hall, which you know as that field. It was really fun. I understand that these are not the greatest posters in the world, but it was 1990. Our computers look like that. It was so fun. And then also I felt a little pressure. Oh wait, I forgot some important quizzes. It's Carleton quiz time, or Kujokra quiz time real fast. In the words of this Canva template, let's start. Kujokra was started in 1987 by whom? Time's up! You guys, it was Mike Roddy and Becky Beagleson, class of 87. You knew that. You knew that. Now, I never met them because they graduated the spring before I started in the fall, but I was in the group with other original members, which means I know what Kujokra means. I'm not going to tell you. I told them already, but I do have one more trivia question. Name an object that has nothing at all to do with the origins of the name Kujokra. Time's up! Be faster! The answer, of course, is cheeseburgers. I don't know what this is. This is the new Kujokra logo. It's been cheeseburgers for decades, and no one knows why. I asked them. They don't know why. But I guess have a cheeseburger at Kujokra. And seriously, I'm so thrilled that this group is still here. Here's your latest Instagram photo. Give it up for Kujokra. But there's a fan in the way in this picture, so you can't tell, but my name's on the wall right there. So after I got in, freshman year, I wanted to take an improv class in Chicago over the summer because Chicago's the home of improv, and I wanted to be able to come back and know what I was doing. So over spring break, I went to see shows at all of the major theaters that taught classes. And these were all good, but when I went to the I.O. Theater, the audience for that show was like 25 people. That included me and Catherine O'Hara. And I went up to talk to her. She was so nice. She was really cool. She gave me an autograph that I cannot find anymore. So anyway, I picked the theater where Catherine O'Hara was in the audience. And I really, really liked it. And I really liked Kujokra. And it got to a point that after I graduated, I needed to decide, what am I going to go into, theater or improv? And I had to think about it. Theater was so fun. And I really love how many disciplines it is. It's not just acting, it's directing, it's costumes, it's color, it's lights. And it's an amazing experience and challenge to create an immersive world on stage where you connect with an audience with true emotions. And then on the other hand, improv is easier, so I did that. After a while in the Chicago improv scene, I realized as rewarding as improv is, no one will pay you to do it. So I made the transition to writing, which people will pay you to do. And at the time, my wife was just applying to medical school. She got into schools in Chicago, LA, and New York, brag. And the shows I really wanted to write for were in New York, so that's where we moved, and I found the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, a terrific comedy theater in the basement of a grocery store. And I performed there, and then luckily, a year after I got there, they gave Stephen Colbert his own show, which was fortunate for me. Sorry, I have one more question. This is all great, but just between us famous Carleton alumni, these folks want to know how they can get a cool TV job. Great point, Peter Tork and Thorstein Veblen. Here's how you do it. If you want to get a job in comedy, this is basically what I did. Number one, don't be able to do anything else. This is actually really important. If you can find fulfillment doing literally anything else, do that. Your life will be better. The people who make it in comedy don't have a choice. So you just walk through all the rejection and poverty. You will want to move to a city with a strong comedy community. Chicago and New York are the big ones, but happily, there's improv communities and comedy communities all over the place now. So go to Philadelphia, Denver, Portland, Austin. There's so many places to go. You're going to have to get a day job. Not just because you will be poor, but also because a day job is really important for a comedian to, I guess I should say, generate material. Like, you can study Laurel and Hardy all you want, but the thing I learned the most about humanity was when I worked at Starbucks and spent 5 minutes getting yelled at over the amount of foam on the top of a latte. You will need to spend 6 nights a week in comedy theaters during your 20s. Not all performing. You can watch shows, you can take classes, but you're going to need to hang out a lot. This is important. Don't be a terrible person. This is a little echo back to the empathy bit. You want to be not an asshole, so people will want to work with you. This next tip doesn't actually come from me. It comes from Tina Fey. It is very wise. You're going to have to do comedy for free for 10 years. Sometimes it's 9. Sometimes it's 11. It's going to be about 10 years. If you're not in LA or New York yet, you will have to move there at some point, and then one of your friends will give you a job. This is actually kind of what happens, is someone who is there ahead of you will get themselves in a position where they can offer jobs to writers, and since you were not a terrible person, they will think you're a great person for that, and they will give you that opportunity. Which does lead to the last thing. You're going to have to get lucky, but you need to be prepared so that when that opportunity strikes you, you can jump at it and not say, oh, wait, yeah, come back to me in a minute. Oh my God, I'm okay. Sorry, I apologize for the following 2 slides. I needed a graphic for empathy, and I found this one online. And speaking of times when you just need to laugh at something, I want to share my delight when I found that this is a stock image, and the name of the company that produced this stock image is Dickcraft. And if you're watching, just let me say thank you so much for taking time off of your no doubt busy schedule crafting dicks to make this empathy graphic. I truly, truly appreciate it. All right. So we're back to the shows. The more you care about other people, the more strength you will have in the face of sadness and depression and cruelty. These 2 shows care for the audience in a different way. Which was an interesting thing in my transition. The Late Show and the Colbert Report, they are late night shows, and their job is to reassure you at the end of the day. We saw that too. You're not crazy. The world is crazy. It's okay. You can go to bed. Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me is a show on Saturdays, and it turns out our audience wants something very different. What they want is a sense of congratulations, you survived the week. You made it to Saturday. Let's hang out and have a good time. And both of those things are expressions of care and empathy, and both of these things are why, no matter what happens, I'm going to keep doing the things that I do. Thank you guys very much. And now, I think we're doing questions.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Peter. That was amazing, and we really needed that. I want to mention that we'll get to the Q&A in just a second, including the people on Zoom. We'll try to squeeze you in. Want to mention the lunch. We are full. So if you didn't RSVP or talk to me personally already, I'm afraid we are full for lunch today. We also want to welcome, I'm guessing there's some class of 93 people here. Welcome, as well as class of, woo, okay. Feel the joy. And the class of 78, I believe, is here. Wonderful. And on that happy note, we will get to the Q&A. Who would like to
Well, we're finding our first question. 78, you're here for reunion planning, right?
Sorry.
Oh, you're waiting.
I don't know if you saw, 74 built a building. All right? Bar set high for you guys. I hope you can step up.
Oh, yes, of course.
I just want to say, as President Byerly, Peter, I really dig what you're doing.
Thank you very much. I hope that tree is still doing very well.
All right, looks like we have a shy. Oh, we have somebody up front. Excellent.
So who's your favorite comedian? Who should we listen to?
Well, I'll say this. Colbert's last day is in May, and I think you should all watch that show. I don't know what's going to happen, but it will either be the most generous or the most cutting thing you've ever seen. Because he's a very smart guy, and him with nothing to lose anymore is going to be a really interesting thing to check out. I would do that. I like a lot of it. I don't watch a lot of stand-up personally. I have been watching the new UK version of Saturday Night Live, and it's adorable. And they're doing a great job, and I think that's also worth checking out.
Hi, I'm a big fan. My mom is going to be very excited that I'm meeting you. Do you have any advice for writers who are trying to learn how to find the inherent comedy in like any kind of situation, any kind of writing, just overall? Yeah.
Even when you're not writing political stuff, that's a big part of writing and sketch comedy in particular. It has to do with finding your own take on things. This is an answer to a lot of questions about writing, but one of the main things you need to do is write a ton of sketches. And what you will find is the first ones that you write will be focused on things that other people find funny about the situation. And as you continue to write, you will say, well, that's someone else's thing. I'm bored with that. What else is there? And when you scrape off those first couple layers, you'll get to like, oh, this is what I think is funny about that. And it comes to you'll get to a great point where you will see something happen and immediately click why that spoke to you as hilarious. Here's an example. I ate breakfast today in Burton, and I made a joke to no one in particular about how it's been a while since I'd had a malto meal. And I said that, and the cafeteria worker who was standing right here said, oh, my brother works there, and proceeded to talk to me about malto meal for 5 solid minutes. And I was like, this is amazing. What is happening here? And then I realized, oh, I'm in Minnesota. That's why this was so shocking, because people were so nice. Yeah, so it just eventually things will start to click in. You need to get through the part where you are copying what you love, which is an important part. You have to do it. And then you will get down to like your take on all this stuff.
My question is, who's your least favorite? No, I'm kidding. Well, so I know that you've done a variety of forms of comedy, but you also predominantly do improv. And I was wondering what makes improv such an appealing vessel of comedy as opposed to maybe stand-up or sketch, besides obviously being easy.
Yeah. So improv versus sketch, it's because it's easier. It's because you don't need props and costumes. I love doing that too. It's just more work. And you need to involve more people. And stand-up, I have done some stand-up, and it's, for me, less fun because you're by yourself. The thing that I really love about improv is it's a group of people bouncing stuff off of each other. The whole point is that the group of people can come up with ideas that none of us would as an individual. And there's just a real joy in building that stuff together. And that's kept me doing it the whole time. And going back to, if you guys are interested in doing this, like, talk about I can't do anything else. Like, the love of this art has kept me going the whole time. It keeps me doing it even now. And that's like the thing that you need to do is whatever gives you that amount of joy that you would do it for free. Because I do still have to do it for free sometimes.
We have one over here, but I'm going to sneak one in from Zoom super quickly. And Ruth Miller asks, what's your favorite thing about working on Wait, Wait? And what's your favorite podcast besides Wait, Wait?
My favorite thing about working at Wait, Wait is that no one is an asshole. Everyone's real cool and supportive, and there's no like competition amongst us. We're on the same team, which also allows us to be really open. It's really kind of a great feeling when one of your colleagues that you trust and like lets you know that your joke sucks. It's a warm place to be, and it happens sometimes. My favorite podcasts, I don't listen to a lot of talk showy podcasts. My favorite podcast I have listened to lately, there's two. They're both Dungeons and Dragons related. And I kind of like them because of the backstories. There's a big one called Critical Role that's kind of famous. In the very beginning of it, this is a group that was, they just played for fun. It was a group of voice actors that played for fun. And then someone was like, we're starting a new streaming channel. Can we put your game on it? And 5 years later, they're billionaires. But what's really fun in the first season is watching them slowly realize that they're really, really popular and that people like them and that they're getting huge. It's just fun. The other one is called The Adventure Zone. And it is another one where there was another podcast with three brothers. One of them had a baby and went on leave. And the other guys were like, what should we do while this guy's missing? Well, let's bring our dad on and teach him how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And people liked it so much, they started a new podcast that is the three brothers and their dad playing Dungeons and Dragons. And it's just very joyous.
Peter, you told us about your roots in theater comedy at Carleton. Can you go before Carleton? I mean, what happened to get you into comedy? Was it a bump in the head at age 4 or anything like that? First question. Second question. Did you have anything to do with a certain daughter of one Peter Sagal coming to Carleton?
A certain what when Peter Sagal came to Carleton?
The second one, Peter Sagal's daughter came to Carleton. Did you have anything to do with that?
Oh, I was unaffiliated with that decision. I can safely say. The first question, I asked myself that a few times, and it keeps going backwards and backwards and backwards. And I think ultimately I have to blame my dad because he really liked old radio shows from the 40s and 50s. So when we were on road trips, he would play old Jack Benny shows and Fibber, McGee, and Molly in the car. So I had no choice but to listen to them. And they were very funny. And that sort of, I sort of had that stuff hardwired in me from the age of 5 or whatever. And it's been fun the whole time.
I have a question. So when the world gets overwhelming, I find myself just turning off the news and not listening. Mm-hmm. But you don't have that option in your job. So how do you take care of yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. The first thing that I do is I get really, really good at quickly scrolling past the top 2 screens on any website to sort of get to stuff that might be a more useful set of news stories for us. And then the main thing is to just have another outlet. I have another thing to do. The thing that I have started doing is solving but also constructing puzzles for people. There's a website called AVCX, which actually used to be the back of the Onion. And they spun out, and the crossword's its own thing now, and I've been writing trivia quizzes for them for a couple of years. I left off my accomplishments page. I was briefly the official, I held the official title of #1 crossword solver in the Midwest at the American Crossword Puzzle Tournament, which is this weekend, so I will not have that title anymore. But just having other things to do. Also, I have kids which are good at distracting you from that stuff, except for my 18-year-old who now keeps looking at Twitter for some reason, and I can't make him stop.
I'm going to sneak one more in quick, like lots from Zoom, sneak one more in. How do you work with a team to write comedy versus writing on your own? How do you agree on what's funny?
Good question. I love writing in a team more than writing by myself. Back at Colbert, we were always paired up, which is useful. And it's really, again, like improv, it's fun to bounce stuff back and forth and build on those ideas. We all have things that's funny, and then what is really great is we will say something that is funny, and then we're hoping someone else in the room comes up with something funnier. And then we'll keep trying to go funnier than that. So when there's a disagreement about what's funny, it is usually reference-based. It's like, this is a really, really funny joke about Beanie Babies. And then someone else will say, what's a Beanie Baby? And then you have to sort of bridge that gap. But we just, if you laugh at it, you know it's funny.
Hi, thanks, Peter. This has been great to hear about this. I'm questioning, though, in some ways I feel like you're preaching to the choir in terms of that question of empathy as part of comedy, and I'm totally part of that choir, too. Mm-hmm. But there's a whole realm, I think, of comedians. I mean, you talked about sort of not as being interested in stand-up, where they're sort of the assumption about a crowd is that you're connecting with them, and if they have some of those biases that are not particularly sympathetic, that's how you're generating interest. And I just want to hear a little bit of how you navigate that, though.
Sure. Well, I mean, I knew I was preaching to the choir coming in. I mean, we're in the chapel. But no one else was here, so that's who I had to preach to. So my comedy is not preachy. In comedy, it is show, don't tell. So my belief is that when we operate from an empathetic standpoint and we present this comedy, you're going to laugh at it because it's funny. And then later on, maybe you will reflect that this take on things, this point of view, made you feel pretty good. There are other schools of comedy where the point is not to make you feel good. It is to make you feel better than someone else. And that's an important distinction. And those comedians generally don't get the same kind of response. And if you were watching them and enjoying something where we connect, and then I'm making fun of someone in my next thing, like depending on who that is, it's one thing to make fun of the president of the United States who has a lot of power and status. It's another thing to make jokes about, boy, if homeless people weren't so lazy, maybe they'd have a house. There are comedians who will do that. And I don't like that kind of comedy. If I think the people who really enjoy that kind of comedy have their own issues in the world where it's important to them to feel better than other people. And that's why that comedy still exists, and I'm just going to give it to them.
And I'm afraid on that we must conclude. Thank you very much,
Thank
Peter,
you guys
for being
so
with us
much.
today. Thank you all as well.